Live from the Coors Light Studios, it's time for the Rip City Drive, hosted by the crazy and often irrational Chad Doing. Coors Light, mountain cold refreshment. Choose chill.
He kicks and fires. Strike three! He got him swinging, and that's a win for LA. 3-1 the final. In a 3-0 series lead in this best-of-7 NLCS.
Rogers catches the shotgun snap. Now he'll run around, allow his receivers to get downfield.
There it is.
And he launches it into the end zone. And it is broken up, incomplete, knocked away by DJ Ivey. And the Bengals have knocked out the Steelers on Thursday night by the final score of 33-31.
Holiday bounce pass to Sharp, knocked away. Grant has it down to 2, a half-court heave as he falls away. It's out of bounds, and the Jazz win. The Jazz get their first win of the preseason. The Blazers drop to 1-3, and the preseason has come to a close for both of these teams. They will meet again in 13 days back here in Salt Lake City in a regular season game.
Strap in. The Rip City Drive with Chad Doing starts now.
Well, the good news is the Rip City Drive is now underway. The bad news is the Mariner game's about to start. I guess the good news is that if the Mariners decide to do what they've done in games 3 and 4, I can just turn the channel to something else and just focus on the show. I've really got a grip session going on right now because I want the Mariners to do the unthinkable and reach the World Series. But I think we all know that Game 5 today, I can guarantee you a couple of things. If the Mariners lose today, making it 3 straight home losses to the Toronto Blue Jays, they're done. They have no chance in HE double hockey sticks of coming back, winning 2 games on the road in Toronto if they lose today. It's not happening. It's not even a possibility. If they win today, they have a very good chance to grab one of the 2 in Toronto and advance to their first ever World Series. Now, if I would have told any of you Mariner fans out there before this series began, so take yourself back a week. It was a week ago today when we had that ridiculous 15-inning baseball game between the Tigers and Mariners. If I would have told you, hey, the Mariners are going to win tonight, they're going to be gassed, and then on top of that, there's going to be delays, which will prevent their plane from getting Toronto on time. Going into Game 1, before that game started, if I would have told you, hey, the series is going to be tied up at 2, going into a pivotal Game 5 at home at T-Mobile Park, each and every one of you would have signed up for that. But the problem is when it comes to playoff series, whether it's the NBA or NHL, or in this case, Major League Baseball, we are very impacted by what have you done for me lately. The Mariners coming home after winning the first 2 games on the road, we thought they were invincible. But after back-to-back nights giving up 21 runs, we now have the doubt. And then, of course, when you're a tortured fan base like the Mariners or the Trailblazers, you start to think of all the things that have happened in the past, how everything that could go wrong will go wrong today. And you know the whole thought process. It's a violent path that we're on to be sports fans of particular teams. It's just the reality of what it is. It's brutal, absolutely brutal. And giving up 21 runs and being dominated by Bieber and the Toronto pitching staff the last couple of games. And I thought Max Scherzer last night was amazing. He and his giant beak were dominating the Mariners. I can't stop looking at his nose or the fact that he's got 2 eyes that are different colors. And he's got 2 dogs that have 2 eyes that have different colors. It's the most unique thing I've ever seen. I was fixated on his eyes in the postgame show last night. It's the trippiest thing. I was like, whoa, he's got 2 different eyes. One eye's one color and another eye's the other color. What's he looking at? Is he looking at me? So anyways, I thought Scherzer was great. And I love pitchers because Mad Bum used to do this with Bruce Bochy all the time. If a manager comes out of the dugout and he has the look in his eye like he's going to pull you from the game, I love it when red-ass pitchers tell them to get back in that dugout where they belong. And that's basically what Scherzer said. And he joked about it after the game last night. He's like, yeah, we had a discussion. And I told him that I feel really good and I want to stay in the game. I've still got outs to get. And he said I used a little bit different language and explained that to him. He basically said, get the F out of my face. I'm not coming out of the effing game. You can go to H-double hockey sticks. And the manager promptly scooted back into the dugout. It was awesome. Love seeing that from Scherzer. I was just surprised that he had so much success with the curveball. And I was surprised that he had so many days off and was able to come out and be effective. He was locating the fastball. He kept the Mariners lineup off balance. And then on top of that, the Mariners made a ton of mistakes. You know, base running gaffes, wild pitches, you know, being impatient at the plate, the whole thing. It's going to take a lot. They need some things to feel good about. Number one, they have to play good defense today. You cannot make any dumb plays anywhere on the field. You've got to be secure defensively. And then they do not need to try to force home runs. Don't go up to the plate looking for the bomb. Just be patient. Work the count. Draw walks. It's okay to get a base hit. Find some things that will make the guys feel good, and you can start to build off of that. And I think that's going to be important. So the Mariners, what have they done all year that's given them success and put them in a position to potentially go to their first World Series? Well, for their pitchers, and thankfully it's going to be Miller against Gausman today, but they've been very aggressive in attacking the strike zone. And then what they do on offense is they look to be aggressive. They run, they try to steal bases, they want to put pressure on the defense. And so I think you've got to continue to do that. You don't want to change who you are or what you've done all season long just because you've had a couple of rough games in the postseason. You're tied 2-2. You get a win today, you're going to feel a lot better about yourself heading back to Toronto. But don't change who you are. Just tighten up the entire operation, meaning don't make any mistakes, base running errors, mental errors, defensive errors. You got to play a clean game and then continue to attack the strike zone with the pitching staff, and hopefully Miller will have another big-time performance like we saw in Game 1, and then be patient at the plate. Don't be looking to launch one out of the park every time you get up there, dang it. So we'll see how it shakes out. I'm looking forward to it, but I think we all know the situation. The Mariners win, great chance to go to the World Series. If they lose, they're done. They're done. They're not winning 2 games in Toronto after dropping 3 straight at home. What's really creepy is that Toronto has not lost a game at T-Mobile Park all year. So we'll see how things shake out, but the players are taking the field right now. So a little afternoon action up at T-Mobile Park. Coming up on the show, this is kind of the pathway for you on a Friday. And by the way, thanks for your time. I appreciate it. We've got Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday, which is on a Friday. So we have another pair of tickets to give away. And we're going to do that at 5 o'clock. Here in about 12 minutes, I'm going to be joined by our Trailblazer insider, Sean Hyken from Rose Garden Report. We'll get his take coming off of the Trailblazers preseason finale. And we'll get his thoughts just ahead of the opening night tip, which is coming up on Wednesday against Minnesota at the Moda Center. And that's what the Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday tickets today are for, courtesy of me and your Portland Trailblazers. It's a pair of tickets for opening night on Wednesday at Moda Center, Blazers, and Timberwolves. So we'll do that at 5. At 4:20, Aaron Fentress of the Oregonian is going to stop by, and we'll talk Ducks with him as they get ready to take on Rutgers. I want to get his thoughts on the team coming out of the Indiana game. And how about Indiana ponying up the scratch to make sure that Coach Cignetti is going nowhere? And now after signing that ridiculous extension with a pile of guaranteed money, he says he plans to retire a Hoosier. Good for Indiana to be able to lock him up. They were smart to get out in front of that because there were going to be some good openings available, including Penn State. The last thing you want to do is have Cignetti in a situation where another team swoops in and tries to offer him a pile of cash. So good move by Indiana. So I want to talk to Aaron Fentress and get his thoughts on the Ducks as they continue to move forward and they prepare for Rutgers. And at 5:20, our good friend Preston Highfield will come on to talk more college football. And we'll talk about the Ducks. He's a Duck. We'll get his thoughts on Oregon as they get ready for Rutgers with him. And then we'll take a look around at the top 25. Impressive win from Texas last week, embarrassing Oklahoma. What a pathetic performance that was by the Sooners. Miami, ranked number 2 in the country as they get ready to take on Louisville here in about 50 minutes. And we got some big games coming up this weekend, including the Big 12, where my Arizona State Sun Devils with Sam Levitt from Westland are getting ready to host the Texas Tech Red Raiders. And after missing last week's game against Utah, it looks like Sam Levitt is good to go. And the Mariner game is about to start right now as Mr. Miller is about to deliver his first pitch of the game with George Springer at the plate. It's going to be critical for Miller to be on fire. And he had a first pitch strike. So there you go. That's the plan for today. We'll talk Blazers with Sean Highkin here in 9 minutes. Aaron Fentress is going to stop by at 4:20. And then we'll focus in on the top 25 with Preston Highfield. And then Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday is coming up at 5 o'clock for your chance to go to the opening night game against Minnesota. The Trailblazers played their last preseason game last night. They lost to Utah 132 to 129. Thankfully, the preseason is over. You know, we've talked about this. Preseason sports are not good. They're not enjoyable, and the results don't matter. But there were a couple of things that jumped out last night. Number one, Drew Holiday is going to be a terrific Trailblazer. He had 24 points, 7 boards, 7 assists. He hit 6 threes. Jeremy Grant, who's had momentary slumps throughout the course of the preseason, scored a game-high 32. And we saw some impressive play from Shaden Sharp, 20 points, 3 rebounds, and 3 assists. The Trailblazers did not play Matisse Thybulle or Tamani Kamara, just continue to be very cautious in preparation for the regular season, which I'm fine with. If a guy's not 100% or is just feeling a little bit off, no reason to play them in a preseason game. It's not worth it. It's too risky, and that's pretty much the way it goes. Miller struck out George Springer. First batter he faced, 1 out in the top of the first up at T-Mobile Park. And I'm watching the game in studio, so I'll keep you up to date on everything that shakes out. We have some good NFL action that we'll keep an eye on this weekend. The Broncos are going to take on the Giants. Cam Scatterboo and Jackson Dart, the 2 youngsters who are bringing a lot of energy to that club. And a new nickname is out, Arm and Hammer. Jackson Dart, Cam Scatterboo. Also a game I love. Really like the Chargers at home this week against the Colts. Indianapolis has been one of the most impressive teams thus far in football at 5-1. Daniel Jones is at 1.5. All right, telephone number 503-248-0620. You can listen live and podcast via. All right, telephone number 503-248-0620. You can listen live and podcast via our free iHeartRadio app. And also every Trailblazer game streams live on our iHeartRadio app. Or you can jump onto YouTube and check out the live stream and follow us there and pull up any old shows. All right, we'll come back. Sean Highkin will join us. We'll get his take on the Blazers just ahead of the season opener. Mariners and Jays scoreless top of the first up at T-Mobile Park. Game 5 with the series tied up at 2. You got the Rip City Drive with Chad Doing on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, the regular season is set to open on Wednesday. The Trailblazers are going to host the Minnesota Timberwolves, and joining us right now from Rose Garden Reports, our Trailblazer insider, Sean Hike. And Sean, thanks for coming back on the show, my friend. Last night, very impressed with Drew Holiday. 24 points, 7 rebounds, 7 assists, and he was able to knock down 6 threes. I thought that was a pretty good final tune-up for the vet.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Drew Holiday is probably the guy that I'm the least worried about or concerned about or needed to see anything from in preseason. We talked about this the other day. He's pretty plug and play. He's, you know what he is. You know he's going to have a positive impact whenever he's out on the court. But yeah, I mean, just seeing what you saw out of him, it just only makes you more confident that, they knew what they were doing when they made that trade to bring him in, for sure.
Yeah, there's no question. He's going to be so good for this team and for Coach Billups, because I think the two of those guys see the game the same way, which is nice. Also last night, Jeremy Grant, a game-high 32 points. It was nice to see him kind of get in a groove offensively. He's gone through, a couple of cold spells throughout the course of the preseason, but Grant looking pretty good. And, I would imagine for him it's still a little bit awkward being here. He addressed that at media day, but for Grant, we know what he can do. He can score, he can knock down the three, and at times can be a good defender for him.
He's had a pretty good preseason overall, I would say. He's been pretty engaged on the defensive end. I'm not going to put too much into a guy like that scoring 32 points in a preseason game against arguably the worst team in the entire league. But he's had a good preseason, and it's going to be really interesting to see kind of what the rotational stuff ends up looking like next week once the season starts.
Yeah, no doubt about it. How do you feel about the starting lineup? Do you think it will be Drew and Shaden with Denny and Tamani and Klingon, or how do you think it might go? I know that Coach Billups will make the decision, but what do your senses tell you about that?
Well, I think the question that we have to get answered first is what the deal is with Tumani, because he didn't play in the last 2 preseason games because of knee soreness. Now, all indicate available opening night. If he wasn't, then that would certainly make the decision a little bit easier. Expecting him to be available opening night. If he wasn't, then that would certainly make the decision a little bit easier for Chauncey. But I don't know. I think there's a few different ways it could go. I don't think put it this way. I don't think anybody, the way anybody has played in preseason, has made the case that they shouldn't be a starter. Like, I don't think anybody has been like, oh, he hasn't been good, so he shouldn't be in consideration for the starting lineup. So I don't know. I definitely think Shaden has done enough to make the case for himself. I think Jeremy's been pretty solid. I think Denny, he's been a little bit up and down, but he's been Denny. And Tumani before in the 1.5 preseason games that he played before he had the injury, he was also, very, very good. So like, you could really pick any of 3 out of those 4 guys, and there's a real case to be made for it. Part of me kind of wonders, though, if they end up using the lineup that they used in the first preseason game, where they start Shaden, Tumani, and Jeremy together and bring Denny off the bench, just because that would solve some of the who's going to be the second unit ball handler and playmaker question while Scoot Henderson is still out. Like, I could see, even though, like, I think Denny is one of their 5 best players and, just based on, like, talent and stuff should start, I kind of wonder if fit-wise and matchup-wise that wouldn't be a thing to try out. I don't know. I could see it going a lot of different ways.
Yeah, and I'd be fine with either way. And don't you think Denny, he knows he's going to play a lot regardless, but he would be on board with whatever the coaches ask of him. That's just kind of the take I have on Denny.
He'll be fine. I mean, he came off the bench at times last year before they realized he was as good as he ended up being by the end of the season. And, Scoot coming back in a few weeks or whenever that ends up happening, that's going to add another wrinkle to all of this anyway. And, another thing about the Denny thing is one of the things that I was kind of pleasantly surprised by with this preseason has been that kind of smaller lineup that they've been playing when Chauncey didn't have either Donovan Klingon or Young Hansen out there, and they played kind of this smaller lineup with Denny at the 5, and that actually worked pretty well. Like, now that isn't a lineup that I think you can play like all the time, but in some matchups in small doses, that's just like another thing you can do with him. So I don't know. I'm as curious as anybody else is about what the starting lineup is going to look like on opening night, and I don't really have the answer right now.
Yeah, I remember Coach Bopes talking about the smaller lineup a few nights ago. I think he really likes that lineup. And what was the main concern? It's all a matter of being able to rebound at the level he's looking for, right?
Yeah, but Denny is also, a pretty good rebounder for a wing, and some of those other guys are too. I think, anytime you don't have Donovan Clingan on the floor, rebounding is going to be a concern for this team. But that's just something. I mean, if he's your only rebounder on, only reliable rebounder, then that's going to be a problem. You have bigger problems than that. So, I mean, that's just something they're going to have to deal with either way.
We're talking to Sean Highkin, our Trailblazer insider from Rose Garden Report here on the Rip City Drive. Overall, what'd you make of Young Hanson's first ever preseason in the NBA?
Not what I expected. A couple of really rough games, a couple of games where he showed some of what they think he's going to be able to do. I think it's going to be like that for a lot of the season. I think he's going to have his moments. I think he's going to have a lot of tough nights, and it's going to be a long process for him. And it might take his whole rookie season for him to fully get comfortable, both from the on-court standpoint with, the speed of the NBA game and the off-court standpoint with, being able to speak and understand English better and some of that other stuff. But I think the whole organization has known the whole time and understood the whole time that this is going to be a learning process for him and for everybody, really, how to manage this. But I would say his preseason was about what I expected, both good and bad.
You mentioned Tamani having the knee soreness. Another player we haven't seen is Matisse Thybulle. Is he okay? Is that just precautionary? What's the latest with Tease?
I don't know. I mean, I think him and last we heard from Chauncey Billups, both him and Rob Williams have not been doing full contact scrimmaging yet, but they've both been looking better and been ramping up. If I had to guess, I don't think Matisse is going to be ready for opening night, but I don't know that for sure, and it doesn't sound like he's too far away.
All right, Sean, the Portland Fire have named their first ever basketball coach, Alex Sarama. What can you tell us about their hire?
It's definitely an unorthodox hire, I'll say that. I know Alex a little bit because he used to be the director of player development for the Rip City Remix. So I talked to him a few times over the course of that first season. I think he's a really smart guy. I think I know a lot of folks in the Blazers front office still speak very highly of him, and I know that some of the concepts that he introduced are things that they continued using as far as like different player development strategies and methodology and all that kind of stuff after he left. And then he went to the Cavaliers this past year and kind of helped reinvent their whole approach to player development and training and stuff, and they had the best record in the Eastern Conference. So it's an interesting hire. I think it's too early to say whether it's going to work out, but it's certainly, like, I give him credit for thinking outside the box and and not just going with a little bit more of a conventional hire. But it's interesting for sure.
The other hire that was made, Ashley Battle, was hired as the team's front office as VP of basketball operations. What's your take on Miss Battle?
I don't know her at all, but she's also very widely well regarded. She played in the league, and then she's held a number of front office roles for the Celtics. Like she was a scout for the Celtics. She was an assistant GM for their G League team, and she's also been a TV commentator in the WNBA recently. She was the color analyst for the Connecticut Sun over the last couple of years. So she's stayed involved in the women's game too. So I mean, these are all people that are very highly regarded. I mean, that same is true of Vanya Chernovich, the general manager that they hired a couple of months ago. Like, these are all very highly regarded people that they've brought in. It's just we won't really know what it looks like until we see what the roster looks like, and who knows when that's going to happen, because we don't, with the CBA negotiations still ongoing, we don't even know when the expansion draft is going to be or what the rules of it are going to be. But I think, there have been the way that the Fire rollout has been is so interesting to me, because there have been a lot of like PR missteps between, the team presidents that they hired and then fired. And then even this week when they accidentally posted the coaching hire on LinkedIn and then pulled it down, some of that stuff has been weird, but a lot of the hires that they've made, I think, have been very smart hires and very interesting and forward thinking hires. So I'm really interested to see which way it ends up going.
All right, Sean Highkin, our Trailblazer Insider from Rose Garden Report. You can read him at rosegardenreport.com. You can check out his Trailblazer Insider Report weekly radio show here on the station and his podcast on our YouTube page. Hey, Sean, have a great weekend, buddy, and I look forward to next week because we'll finally be able to talk some basketball as we get ready for the season opener, and we can start making some predictions, projections, and everything else. I can't wait.
Yes, sir.
There you go. Sean Highkin, ladies and gentlemen. Big thanks to him for joining the program. Mariners and Blue Jays are scoreless right now, top of the second inning up at T-Mobile. Cal Raleigh had a double off the wall, and then Jorge Polanco got totally hosed. There was one out with Raleigh on second. The count was 3-1, and Gosman threw a low off-speed pitch out of the zone, way out of the zone, and the freaking ump called it a strike. So that put Polanco in a weird spot. And then, of course, the same pitch came across. He had to swing at it because it was called strike last time. The inconsistency, of course, very annoying. And so the Mariners were unable to capitalize on the double from Raleigh. So far, Miller appears to be in a pretty good groove, but it's early, and it's been the third inning in the last two ball games that have really been the problem for the Mariners. So we'll see how things shake out. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. I haven't heard anything in regard to Monty Kamara that would lead me to be concerned. I think they're just being extra cautious. And then, with Thibault, they're being extra cautious with him. But I think those two players will play real soon. And, from everything I've heard about Scoot and the hamstring, it's not like a serious issue. It's just going to need some time to heal up. And, with hamstrings, I've never had a hamstring issue. I'm not an athlete, but you know how they are. You can re-aggravate easily, so you got to be very patient through that process and no need to rush him back. When he comes back, you want to be 100% so he can play. And I just can't wait to see Scoot in this new offense because it's going to put him and the other guards who are playing in a position to play fast and to make plays for their teammates and be heavily involved. I think it's going to be an offense that's going to fit Scoot well. And I think it was smart for Chauncey Billups to, try to up the ante and go with different coaches and come up with a system that's going to be better suited for his players. Also, we did see a little bit of a switcheroo with the Mariners lineup with their batting order. Rodriguez batting leadoff, followed by Cal Raleigh, Polanco, Naylor, and Arozarena has been moved down in the order. And that's because he's been producing nothing. Followed by Suarez, Crawford, Canzone, and Rivas. So there you have it. Mariners making minor adjustments here for this all-important Game 5. Scoreless right now, top of the second up at T-Mobile Park. One out, nobody on for the Blue Jays, who are at bat. And what a play by Rivas. It looked like it was going to be a base hit, and he snagged it with full extension. That's pretty sweet. So there you have it. That's the grip session. Other sporting events that are coming up tonight. Number 2, Miami's going to be in action. They're hosting Louisville. Two of the best defensive lines in all of college football. Both Miami and Louisville are in the top 5. And the number 1 defensive line right now is Texas Tech, according to Pro Football Focus. And by the way, Texas Tech, if you look at NIL dollars, they're in the top 3 in money spent. They spent more on their defensive line than Oregon State did on their roster. We're in the new day and age of college football now where money talks and everything else walks, right? You know that routine. But Texas Tech has been spending some dollars. And tomorrow, it's going to be the toughest matchup that Arizona State has probably seen during the time that Kenny Dillingham has been coach. But fortunately for them, Sam Levitt's going to play. I'm looking forward to the games tomorrow. Big games on Sunday. We got big games tomorrow. And then, of course, the Trailblazers are going to open up their season tomorrow. I thought last night's game was amazing. One of the greatest things, I've watched it a billion times since last night. How about Aaron Rodgers running off the field only to be tackled by a teammate that weighs like 300 pounds? And then Rodgers getting up, giving him the death stare and basically telling him to bleep off. It's like, dude, I know you're young and you're excited. I am 40-plus years old. I have already recovered from a torn Achilles. My body is brittle at a nice, ripe age of 40-plus. Can you please not tackle me? The look that Rodgers gave him was priceless. If looks could kill, that would have done it right there. And how about Joe Flacco just bawling out of his mind? And the Bungles getting a win 33-31. That was impressive. And then T. Higgins, instead of being a me guy, was a team guy with the way that he was able to take the slide right around the 5-yard line, setting them up to run the clock out and beat Pittsburgh. That was impressive. But it was so much fun last night because those two old guys were whipping it around the field. That third down throw that Rodgers had for the touchdown, where he scrambled, squared his shoulders, and delivered a rope between defenders to his receiver for a touchdown, was awesome. And that's why people look at Rodgers like one of the best of all time, because he is, and he can do things physically that most guys can't. Just a flick of the wrist, and it's like 40 yards on a line. Boom. And Joe Flacco, I think what happens sometimes with these teams that lose their starting quarterback, because Joe Burrow's a stud. You lose him, and then they put in their backup, and it's uninspiring, and the play is awful, and the quarterback's not getting the football where it needs to be, not getting rid of it on time, and it's causing everything to bog down. Well, Joe Flacco, because he's been around so long and understands defenses and is a natural-born leader at that position, it just looked like blocking better. The receivers were running crisper routes better. And Joe Flacco's not a moron. He knows I'm going to drop back. I just got to get it to Jamar Chase. Get it to Chase, and when not, we'll get it to T. Higgins. And Jamar Chase looks like the best receiver in football the last 2 weeks. One, because he might be anyways, but two, because Joe Flacco's been getting him the football, something that Browning was not doing. You don't think he wants to play with Flacco? It's like, dude, I'm open. I'm not open. Just throw me the ball. It's pretty sweet. All right, 503-248-0620. Aaron Fentress talking Ducks ahead of the Rutgers game coming up at 4:20. And your chance to go to the season opener, Blazers and Timberwolves, coming up at 5 o'clock. Because I am a man of the people and I want to take care of you. Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday extended to every day this week. Hope you're enjoying your Friday. 503-248-0620. And if you're watching the Mariner game, hope you're enjoying the grip session, which is Mariner baseball. You got the Rip City Drive with Chad doing on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio.
On the strike. Oh, baby! Had the one to crush! And did! Eugenio Suarez makes it 1-0 Seattle. Grossman put it on a tee. Suarez did not miss. 51st of the year. And that is a pitch selection there.
Well, it's nice to know that Suarez is still alive. He was in the middle of Suarez. Right now, the Mariners on top of the Blue Jays. 1-0, bottom by Suarez. Right now, the Mariners on top of the Blue Jays. 1-0, bottom of the second at T-Mobile Park. They have one on and two outs. And Rivas right now is at the plate. So the Mariners are trying to add some more after the home run by Gino. That was big time. I mean, it was like one of those no-doubters where as he got full extension, and as soon as he made contact, it's like, see ya. So the Mariners once again off to a good start. The question is, are they going to fall apart in the third inning just like we saw in the last couple of games? Certainly hope not. But right now looking pretty good. And they've mixed up the orders, so Rodriguez batting leadoff today, and he'll be coming up here real soon. But Rivas right now is in a very good battle at the plate, and already 34 pitches for Gausman. So the Mariners doing some good work early, but they have a lot more work to do. It was that four-seam splitter that Jorge Polanco got screwed on, and that's why we're going to the robot umps real soon. It's like, come on, man. All right, inning is over. They're going to head to the top of the third, but Suarez got the home run, so M's on top 1-0. This game obviously pivotal to Game 5. If the Mariners win, they're in great position to reach their first ever World Series. If they lose, they're done. Other than that, just a baseball game. But that's how big it is. And we all know it, right? We've watched enough sports to know if they lose today, they're done. D-U-N, done. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. I've got tickets to give away for the season opener. We'll do that at 5 o'clock today. All you have to do is listen to me for your chance to win. And we're going to talk to Aaron Fincher's coming up at 4:20. Get his take on the Ducks. Get his take on what went down in that game last week against Indiana, and then some of the adjustments that were made throughout the course of the week. And I still love Dan Lanning's press conference when he was still getting questions about Indiana after the Monday press conference. It's like, yeah, we've already corrected our mistakes. We're moving on. It's like some people just can't get over the fact that, you know what, you're going to lose a game occasionally in college football. Even the best teams are going to go down. Georgia lost a game already. They lost a home game to Alabama. No one thought that was going to happen, and it happened. So what are you going to do? You going to sit around and cry about it? Or are you going to move on and prepare and continue to play? That's what's great about college football now is we don't have to worry about the nonsense of going undefeated. That somehow if you lose a game, your season's over. Those days are over. It's gone. We're in the new day and age of college football where multiple teams across the country, all these different fan bases have hope because there's so many openings to jump into the playoff, which is really cool. And I'm totally pumped about it. And I'm telling you, you should watch the game tonight, Miami and Louisville. Two of the best defensive lines in college football going head-to-head. Will Miami be able to continue to run the ball on the interior of their offensive line against that defensive front of Louisville? Will Carson Beck continue to process quickly and get rid of the football? He's been impressive. And the Miami defense as a whole has been great. Their defensive line is nasty. I got to give it up for Mario. Mario has done a very good job of building this team, and they look super legit, really good. And Carson Beck's having a nice bounce-back year after a injury-plagued letdown last year with Georgia. He looks good. He looks competent. He's delivering the football on time, on target, with confidence. I like what I see from Miami. I mean, I know we all keep waiting for the Cristobal meltdown. It's probably coming. Cristobal usually doesn't disappoint, but right now they look strong. One of the best teams in the country. No question about it. So, Louisville at Miami. The game at 5 o'clock on Fox, Nebraska at Minnesota. The Huskers are ranked 25th. They have one loss. That loss coming to Michigan. And Minnesota 4-2, 2-1 in conference. This game should be okay. Nebraska favored by a touchdown. They've done a great job of throwing the football. And Nebraska's pass defense has been really good throughout the course of the year. They just can't stop the run. They've had issues stopping the run. It's been a problem for them. So we'll see how things work out with Minnesota. Their offense is pretty brutal. Also, how about Georgia Tech? 6-0, ranked 12th at Duke tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock kick on ESPN. And the Blue Jays, here comes the third inning, and right away, a double right off the top. And now they've got a runner in scoring position with no outs. This is the concern. Can they keep it together here in the third inning? Come on, Seattle. Do not screw this up. Double right off the top. And you know what they're going to try and do? They're going to try and advance the run over to the third and even this game up. Soares with the home run to give the Mariners a 1-0 lead. But this has been the trouble spot for Seattle, the top of the third, in these first two games at T-Mobile Park. So we shall see what they can do with Jimenez at the plate. It's important here for Miller to hopefully get a strikeout and put some pressure on that Jays lineup to come up with a base hit. And Jimenez last night had a big game. And his batting average this postseason over 300. He's been on fire. But Miller, I like Miller because he's very calm. He's very intense in his approach. We saw that in game one. I just have a lot of confidence in the way that he's operating right now. Important inning for Seattle. If they can get through the third unscathed, they have to feel pretty good about themselves moving forward. And they've got some arms in the bullpen. And Wu could be available today, depending on how things shake out with Miller. So we should keep an eye. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. You can reach out if you want to jump on board. Love to get your take on some of the big games coming up this weekend. Huge play by the Mariners. Double play, 2 outs. What a playable. And those are the type of defensive plays I'm talking about. That is incredible. And those are the type of defensive plays I'm talking about. Naylor with a badass play. Oh, my goodness, that's huge. You go from no outs with a runner on second to now nobody on with 2 outs. And I got to give it up for Naylor. He's been huge over the last few games. I like him too. Huge play. Okay. Mariners right now looking pretty good. Springer at the plate with nobody on, 2 outs. And the Mariners trying to hold on to that 1-0 lead heading to the bottom of the third. All right, we'll keep things rolling. Aaron Fincher is going to join me at 4:20. I appreciate you on this Friday. Trailblazer tickets for the opener coming up. We'll give those away at 5. who played guitar in this song for Phil Collins. He nailed it with the first. Who played guitar in this song for Phil Collins? He nailed it with the first answer.
It was a guess.
And that guess is Eric Clapton. I'm a big fan, obviously, of Phil, but I love Eric Clapton as well. All right, 1-0 Mariners, bottom of the third up at T-Mobile Park. 1 out. Julio is batting leadoff tonight. Cal is second in the order. Julio, like usual, swinging wildly at the plate. It's a 3-0 count on Raleigh, so the Mariners with an opportunity after the top of the third where we saw great defense from Naylor that got Miller out of a bit of a jam after a leadoff double. So great defense, and as we talked about, for the Mariners to get through this game, they got to play a clean game defensively and no base running errors, no wild pitches, nothing that you could put under the label of dum-dum. That's going to be critical. And then Miller's got to be able to pitch deep into the game. I thought that was it was a horrendous performance last night from Castillo. Luis did not have it. He wasn't good enough, and that's problematic. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. Aaron Fincher is coming up in 18 minutes. Your chance to go to the opener, courtesy of your Portland Trailblazers and me, coming up at 5. The Trailblazers will take on the Timberwolves coming up on Wednesday the 22nd as Raleigh strikes out. And we'll give those tickets away at 5, and then we'll talk some college football with my man Preston Highfield coming up at 5:20. Well, last night was a lot of fun. How about the Bengals-Steelers game? Usually Thursday night games are a disaster for a wide variety of reasons, but really the big issue is that if you're the road team on Thursday night, you're up against it. One, because the game's on Thursdays, so Wednesday is a travel day. You got to jump on an airplane, and you don't get to go through your walkthroughs or to get that extra practice time. The home team, major advantage, they don't have to travel, so they can spend Wednesday doing their walkthroughs and getting prepared for the game. Not to mention the teams are not physically recuperated from the previous game that they played. So you got teams that are gassed getting out there on Thursday night. Usually not a very good product. Last night was awesome. You had two quarterbacks in their 40s, Joe Flacco, Aaron Rodgers, in a shootout at the OK Corral. High scoring, big-time throws. It was exactly what you would want if you're watching that football game. And I was wildly impressed. I thought Flacco was terrific. Aaron Rodgers looked great, aside from a couple of turnovers. But those guys were going back and forth. And when Rodgers threw that last touchdown with just over 2 minutes to play, it was a beautiful pass where he threw a rope 40 yards on the money between defenders for the touchdown. But I think we all knew that the way that Cincinnati was moving the football, that you leave them over 2 minutes, they're going to get into scoring range, which they did. But the advantage for them is that T. Higgins decided to slide and put himself in fine position. But Joe Flacco, he's a guy who's battled. He's been a starter. He bet on himself, won a championship. And he went from being a full-fledged starter, one of the best in the biz, to now being a journeyman. But he loves to play, and his wife has been the one to encourage him to continue. And he looked great last night. It was awesome.
Shotgun snap to Flacco. Looking, throwing, caught,
Nice.
middle of the end zone.
Nice.
Noah Fant, the Bengals tight end, with the touchdown catch. And Cincinnati's lead can be back to 10 with the extra point.
I love that. You've got a color guy who is talking over the play-by-play. Nice, nice. And he's clapping at the same time. He's in his own world as the play-by-play guy's doing his work.
Shotgun snap to Flacco. Looking, throwing, caught,
Nice.
middle of the end zone.
Nice.
Noah Fant,
Yeah,
the Bengals
nice.
tight end, with the touchdown catch. And Cincinnati's lead can be back to 10 with the extra point.
Yeah, nice. And then he got the clap going. It's very good. Almost like a hype guy in a rap video. Joe Flacco after the game talking about how much fun he had out there dueling with Aaron Rodgers.
It was a lot of fun, but there's your mind's not necessarily thinking that way for the full 60 minutes. Obviously, the last 7 seconds, but even that, there's 3 seconds, they got a Hail Mary off. You're still, I've been through enough of these to wait until that clock hits 0 to be excited. So I love doing this. I've been doing it for such a long time. When you're out there with the guys and you're doing what you want to do and you're having success and you can look in each other's eyes and just like you get that feeling, of bonding with somebody else, and just it's a lot of fun. And it's a lot more fun when that clock hits zero and you've gotten the job done.
The funny part is I was looking at both dudes last night, and they both have their beards coming in, but the gray, it reminds me of myself, where the whiskers now coming in a little bit gray, a little bit white. And those are guys I've been watching for years. Aaron Rodgers has been around what seems to be an eternity. Flacco's been around for a long time. He ripped my heart out with that stupid Hail Mary play for Baltimore at Denver in the postseason when I thought Peyton Manning was on his way to the Super Bowl and freaking Joe Flacco lobbed a dagger in my back. But he's a very likable guy. And then Aaron Rodgers, of course, now that he's not with the crappy Jets, he actually looks like a high-functioning quarterback again. Weird how that works. With the Jets, garbage. Not with the Jets, back to being himself, Aaron Rodgers. But that throw he made was sick. And Rodgers talked about, throwing a couple of touchdowns to Freiermuth.
Be ready, because I saw something on one of the pictures on the sideline in the first half. So at halftime, I pulled him aside, and I didn't think it'd be 3rd and 18 from the 19, but they clouded pretty hard to DK, and Pat did a nice job down the middle.
It's pretty good. That's a high-level quarterback play right there. I saw a still photo and knew that it was going to be there, and he took advantage of it. Rodgers also talked about losing a close one, and you could tell that's one he wanted last night, too, because he's out there wheeling and dealing.
Well, I think you got to realize, listen, we want to win every game. There needs to be an expectation of winning, but this is a short week, division opponent, anything can happen. Obviously, Joe played really well for them, and Chase and T got going for him. But this is the NFL. We had a chance to really open up some space, but we're 4-2, still first in the division. Got a couple, home games coming up, back-to-back, another Sunday night opportunity against my former team. So I'm not going to ride the roller coaster, and I know Mike isn't, and hopefully you guys follow suit.
My favorite play of the game came from Broderick Jones tackling Aaron Rodgers. So you've got his teammate tackling him after a big play. Rodgers goes tumbling to the ground, and then when he gets up, he wheels around like he's going to punch him and gives him the dirtiest look of all time. Like, what are you doing, man? I'm 40-plus years old. You're like a 300-pounder. What are you doing trying to get on top of me? I'm happy that you're happy, but, dude, I'm not young, and I've already ripped up my Achilles. What are you trying to do to me? Crazy. Come on, Broderick, settle down. Rodgers also talked about how it was a good night for the old dudes.
The novelty? Yeah, I think it's great great for all the old guys, I know that when I watch other sports, maybe it's because I'm the older guy, but I tend to pull for the older guys to win championships.
There you go. We do like the old guys, right? Even with people you used to hate as they get older, kind of smooth out some of the rough edges, we start to pull for them. It's weird how that works. Interesting. A couple other things I want you to hear. Ben Johnson, head coach of the Bears. The Bears are winning now. So they used to complain that the offense didn't look like it was supposed to under Caleb Williams, and they were losing. Now they're winning, and nobody's happy. Ben talked about that.
It sounded like from that game the other night, a few people weren't particularly pleased with how we were winning right now. So that's the. I woke up this morning and my kids were watching the second half before school, and so I heard some of the commentary. But listen, in this league, any way you can find a way to win.
Yeah, that's what I love about the NFL. At the end of the game, the scoreboard is the only thing that matters. We don't care about style of points, game control, or any of that nonsense. Did you win the game? Yes. Okay, move on and get ready for your next game. Obviously, you're going to take some of the good and the bad, and you want to improve from that, but that's the bottom line. Did you win? And that's why I love the NFL compared to college football, where everyone gets hung up on the style points. It drives me crazy. And then I'll be sending this clip over to my good buddy Brian No, B-No. I think Caleb Williams may have said could care less instead of couldn't care less, which, of course, is a big problem.
Yeah, I could care less.
It sounded like he said it could care less.
Yeah, I could care less.
Yep.
It's kind of how I think I've said multiple times. People are going to say what they have to say. We win, we lose. People have stuff to say. It was lucky, it was not lucky. People have stuff to say. Have a bad game, have a good game. People have stuff to say. So it doesn't matter. We're only worried about what's going on here within this building and with these guys. So that's all I can say about that.
All right. Thank you, Caleb. Appreciate that. Could care less. Technically, he should have said couldn't care less, but he didn't. So I'll be sending that over to Brian No. One last thing. Curt Cignetti signed a massive extension worth many millions of dollars in guaranteed money with Indiana. Probably smart by the Hoosiers to do that. And he's pretty thrilled to be there. And I would be too if I was getting like 11 plus million per year guaranteed, fully guaranteed over a long period of time.
I couldn't be more proud to be a Hoosier, and I plan on retiring as a Hoosier. And the way that this state has embraced us and our success in football has meant more to me than anything else. So I just wanted to get on camera and let you know that Curt Cignetti is going to work daily to make Indiana the best they can be.
Love that. I marvel at Coach Cignetti. I don't understand how he does what he does. We got issues up in Seattle right now. Top of the fourth, Mariners on top 1-0, and we have a bit of an issue. Bases are loaded with nobody out. Everything was going just fine until the top of the fourth, and now we're in serious trouble. And Spire is getting warmed up in the bullpen. Oh, my gosh. This is not going to go well. You've got to find a way to get out of this mess, my friend. We need Miller to come up with a strikeout or some type of – he needs a strikeout. Gosh, dang it. Everything was going so well, and now this is going to come apart in one inning again. It's so dumb. And we need to pray that Miller gets out of this. If he gets out of this jam, Seattle, and we need to pray that Miller gets out of this. If he gets out of this jam, that would be something. Varsho is at the plate. All right, Aaron Fincher's talking Ducks. Have they made the proper corrections necessary to take care of biz against Rutgers? We'll find out next. All right, we're joined now by Aaron Fentress of the Oregon about the NFL and college. Basketball season's around the corner. NHL's underway, like in full swing about the NFL and college. Basketball season's around the corner. NHL's underway, like this is it's pretty good.
It's too much for my old little brain, man. I'm short circuiting. And did you guys bring me in from Ray Parker Jr.?
Yes.
A woman needs a love. Didn't you guys bring me in last time with something else smooth from the past? I can't remember anyway. Yeah,
Jack and
Jill.
Jill.
The jam pretty nicely over there. It's almost like you work for a radio station.
I know. It's great to have access to so much music. But you know what I love about you? The fact that you pulled Ray Parker with no problem tells me that you're my type of guy, man. That's smooth.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think we've kind of – we're not exactly on the same page music-wise, but we have a lot of overlap. Our streams cross.
Yes, our streams do cross.
In a lot of different directions.
But it makes sense, right? Because back in the day when we were growing up, all of our favorite artists were all working out of the same studios creating music together. That's why there's so much crossover.
Yeah, crossover producers, crossover session musicians, influence, people respecting each other's art, even something like We Are the World, bringing all those people together, sort of what that meant for that generation. But yeah, definitely. I mean, it was a different time. I hate to say that because I always feel like I'm old man yelling at clouds, but it was. It was a different time. There's just no doubt about it.
It was a different time. Did you watch the documentary Greatest Night in Pop History?
Of course.
Oh, how good was that? That's one of my favorite docs of all time. And I love when Lionel Richie's talking about being over at Michael's house when they were putting the song together and the Python came out and he's like, "Oh, Lionel, he heard you singing. He just wants to say hello." And Lionel's like, "Man, I've seen the movie and how it goes with the brother and the snake. I don't want any part of it."
Exactly. I just wish they would have made that a while back, when Quincy wasn't in it, right?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, Quincy should have been in it. Obviously you'd have to make it 20 years ago for Michael Jackson to be in it, but that's the only negative. That was maybe made a little too late, but it was still really good.
Yeah, I still love the part where one of the guys who was on the light crew taking care of the building before everyone arrived, Michael was there working on his part with Quincy, and he said he was, putting things together, and it was quiet in there, and he just heard someone singing. It was Michael. And he said it was like the voice of an angel. Like he had a chance to hear Michael behind the scenes putting his part together and how good the voice was back then. I was like, that's cool, man. I wish I could have been there for that.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. There's actually on YouTube, there's actually like a 5-minute video of that session of him going through the vocals by himself.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's so good.
Pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, because, Michael was such a great performer and dancer that sometimes I think that people forget about how good of a vocalist he was, especially in his younger days.
Oh, definitely. I mean, he was one of those artists who could have a smash hit with, for example, Billie Jean and beat it, and then all of a sudden here comes Human Nature, or Don't Stop You Get Enough, and here comes She's Out of My Life, right? He's that kind of performer.
Yeah, I love it. All right, so last week, I got to be honest with you, I was stunned by the outcome of the Ducks game. Not that Oregon lost, because I thought if they lost, it would come on a fluke, like multiple turnovers or miscues in special teams, but the way that Indiana was able to physically dominate both sides of the football, when I came out of the game, I didn't think less of the Ducks. I just had a more real understanding of who Indiana is this year. What was your takeaway as you walked away from that game?
Yeah, I wasn't overly shocked by what happened, but I was surprised a little bit, only because I just been told for so long how much talent they've acquired on this team and how it's more talented than last year, and all these 4-star and 5-star are unbelievable and blah, 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 blah. And it didn't look like that on Saturday, did it?
No.
It looked like the team with the so-called lesser recruits was the better squad. And I think, when things like that happen, it makes you pause, because a lot of what went into the hype for the season was based on prognostication. Because you're replacing 18 starters, including quarterback, 4 offensive linemen, running back, receiver. Like, you're just replacing damn near the whole team. But the feeling was, we could be even better. And that's just not really how it works in sports very often. I thought the Penn State game, clearly we all thought that was a great win, but now it doesn't look so great, because Penn State is a complete disaster, losing to UCLA and Northwestern and firing its coach. So that win kind of, it's still a solid win, but it doesn't have the magnitude that it carried, or a lot of people thought it carried after that or the week following, I should say. And so now you have 0 really good wins on your resume, and the best team you played came in your house and beat you. They didn't beat you up, but they beat you. And so what do we have moving forward? Well, we have a team that has 4 victories that mean nothing in terms of the national scope of things. Oklahoma State, Montana State, Northwestern, and Oregon State. Worthless, as far as I'm concerned, in terms of if this team's a national contender. And now you got Rutgers and then Wisconsin. So we won't really, get a chance to learn more about this team until at Iowa. And of course, they close with USC and Washington. But I just don't – I have 0 belief whatsoever that this team is going to, flip the switch late and make a magical run to the national title. I think they'll make the playoffs. But I think they'll run in early because it's just too much to fix. They don't have a true number 1 receiver. They don't have a true number 1 back. The quarterback has played really, if you think about it, he's had 1 good performance against a Power 4 team in his career, and that was Penn State. And then you replace 9 or 8 starters on defense. So I think this is a team that could be better next year if Moore comes back. You got DeCorian Moore and the two freshman running backs will be better. And you got a bunch of guys coming back on defense. But this year, I think 10-2 is probably where they might end up. Maybe 9-3, and then maybe at 10-2 they squeak into the playoffs and they're an early round exit. But it was a very interesting, eye-opening experience on Saturday.
And what do you think the answer is at running back? Should they settle in on one guy and let him get the bulk of the carries, or do you think we'll continue to see that rotation in the backfield?
I think we'll continue to see the rotation because not one guy has separated themselves as a do-it-all kind of back. And even Lanning said the other day, there's certain packages. So you scout the opponent and you think, okay, we want to run these plays against these guys. Well, who runs those plays the best, right? Now, you have a true number 1 guy. That guy runs them all the best, right? Because he's your best back. And then you might have a legit number 2 who could be a starter, but he's number 2. So if you go look at the greatest teams Oregon's had, you knew who the dudes were. You weren't juggling 4 and 5 guys. You knew who they were. And even when you had depth, you still had a hierarchy. So let's go back to LaMichael, Kenyon, and DeAnthony in 2011. It was clear who 1, 2, and 3 was. And then, LaMichael leaves, and you got Kenyon, DeAnthony, and I think Byron Marshall was on the team by then, or maybe the next year. Yeah, he was on the team by then. And then in 2014, Freeman came in. You had Freeman, Tyner, and Marshall. They were so good, they moved Marshall to wide receiver. And then later you had Bucky Irving, and then you had Noah, who's still on the team. Last year you had Jordan James and Noah. And right now they just, I don't think Noah's a true number 1 back. I think he's a number 2. And the other 3 guys are either too young or just not ready to be that guy. I think De'Aaron Hill and Jordan Davison have the potential, each one of them, to become a number 1 back, but they're not there yet. There's just so many things you have to learn as a running back, including pass protection. You can't get your quarterback killed because you don't know what you're doing. So if you can't do everything, you're not going to be out there the entire game, so you're rotating backs. And I just, is it, the end of the world? No, but it's still something that usually you have when you're a really good team. And couple that with not a true number 1 receiver and everything else. So it's just, to me, this is a transition year. Last year's team, I think, beats this year's team. And we'll see how it goes. Who knows? They could all of a sudden flip the switch and, be amazing and run the table and be in the Final Four. We'll see, but I just don't see it.
And don't you think they could lose another game? A 2-loss Duck team probably gets into the playoff, right?
I think a 2-loss team gets in if that second loss is against a ranked team, USC or UW. But let's say they go into UW 10-1 and they lose that game. I think they can still get in. Or they lost the previous week and then beat UW. I think they can get in. 11-1 for sure is a given. The only thing about 10-2, last year Miami was 10-1 and they looked like they were going to get in, and then they lost at Syracuse. Well, Syracuse wasn't very good, and the ACC doesn't have the cachet that the Big Ten has. So that's why, a 10-2 Oregon, plus the benefit of the doubt because it's Oregon, I think does squeak in as long as that loss is a good loss. If the loss is a bad loss, then that can make things a little dicey. However, think about this. If you do lose to Rutgers or Wisconsin, but then you run the table after that, you got wins at Iowa, Washington, and USC to lean on, which maybe props you up and helps you still get in. But I wouldn't want to mess with that. If I'm Oregon, I'm trying to win out and make sure I get in.
Yeah, Dan Lanning was a little bit testy at one of his press conferences this week. I thought it was great that he took accountability for the fact that his team wasn't prepared for that game. But, the great thing about college football now, Aaron, this is what I love most about the playoff expansion. You can lose a game. You don't have to be perfect. you can go back to the drawing board, work on the things that you need to improve, and still put yourself in a position to be in postseason play, which I think is great.
Yeah, it's so much better. I did not like the days where your national title aspirations could end in the first few weeks of the season in a non-conference game that you schedule because you're trying to schedule tough, and then, you lose that game. And now, as a matter of fact, so the last 25 years, I think Oregon gets in the playoffs 14 times. I'm going back to 2000 through 2024. They get into the playoffs 14 times. Well, we know they only got in the playoffs once, last year twice, and they got to national championship games. That's three. That's three opportunities they really had. Whereas expanded playoffs to 12, they would have gotten in 14 times total. Think of the 2001 team. They lost once. They lost once to Stanford, and then they got squeezed out of playing Miami, and Nebraska gets in. In 2012, that 2012 team went 12-1. Their only loss was that close game in overtime to Stanford. But because Stanford won the conference, right, they didn't get a shot, to get into the playoffs. They weren't even the conference champion at 12-1. No playoffs, into the BCS, I should say. So that year had a 4-team playoff they might have gotten in, but the way it was, they had no chance. So, yeah, this is way better because now, like you said, you can fix your mistakes, work on getting better, and hopefully peak at the end, which is what Ohio State last year. I just don't see it from this Oregon team this year.
Well, you got to feel pretty good about your Chicago Bears making some progress. They're winning football games. I know it's not the way everyone wants them to, but I was impressed. You come back on the road at Washington and take out Jaden Daniels. That was impressive to me. I'm happy for Caleb Williams because I want him to succeed.
Yeah, he's looked good, man. I think the garbage he's taken has just been weird. I think it's because the hype around him, the Heisman, the number one pick, the USC thing. He's a little flamboyant, so I think people were looking for reasons to trash him. But 20 touchdowns, 6 picks last year, despite being under duress and the whole season. And yes, some of the sacks were his fault, but he's a rookie, right? Give him a chance to develop. If you look at the greatest quarterbacks of all time, you and I have talked about this. Everyone knows this. Joe Montana was a backup. Brett Favre was a backup. Tom Brady was a backup. Mahomes sat. Aaron Rodgers was a backup. Like your boy John Elway struggled the first couple of years. Troy Aikman struggled. Staubach, it's to cut off the gate and just light it up like Marino did, is unusual. So I just thought people gave him a lot of unnecessary grief last year, and this year he's looking pretty good. That said, the last 2 wins are kind of lucky, man. Jaden Daniels fumbles the handoff. They block a field goal against the Raiders. So I'm viewing everything with a pessimistic eye, but I do like the trajectory, especially with the talent of Williams. He's got to refine some things, but, man, he is exciting to watch play, no doubt.
No question about it. One of my favorite Elway stats, this is from the group of quarterbacks who were taken number 1 overall. Elway's the only quarterback taken 1 overall to win his first game of his career on the road. That was a game at Pittsburgh back in '83. But the only reason why the Broncos won the game is because he played so bad that he was benched and replaced by Steve DeBerg, who came in to get the win.
That's hilarious.
I know. Yeah, you're right. We expect so much from these guys. Well, Aaron, I appreciate it, buddy. Enjoy the Rutgers game, and we'll catch up soon. And I'm with you, man. I'm getting older now, so it's hard for my brain to keep up with all the sports, but I'm doing my best.
I try, man. It's a little tough to keep up with, but now, do you pay attention to the NBA other than Blazers until Christmas, or do you dive right in right away with the NBA?
I dive in, but it's difficult because, it's not early season NBA because it's right in the middle of football season, so my mind is gravitating towards football. So I do it to pay attention to what's going on, but I don't get excited about it until post-Christmas.
Yeah, that's how I am. I don't get excited until really post-playoffs, NFL playoffs, but... All right, cool.
All right, appreciate you. There's Aaron Fincher, Oregonian, here on the Rip City Drive, breaking it down. We have an update from T-Mobile Park. George Springer with a RBI double with 2 outs in the top of the 5th, and we're now tied at 1 at T-Mobile Park. Miller was replaced. Brash is in, and he gave up the big hit to Springer. So this is an important part here. He needs to get this out and stop the bleeding right now with the game tied at 1. It's critical. Oh, yeah. Lukes is at the plate. Counts 1-1. Springer on second, 2 outs. So Brash has got to find a way to get the out here. Come on, Brash. Stop making me nervous and get it done, dang it. And that means Miller would be charged with the run. Come on now. Oh, my goodness. Opportunities. I mean, the Mariners have come up with some big defensive plays, both from Cal Raleigh and Josh Naylor. They got the home run from Gino, but they need to get out of this fifth, only giving up the one run. And Springer's tough. He's such a big time player. All right, counts now at 1-2. It's a grip session up there, but this is more of what I anticipated when they came back to Seattle, these type of tight situations like this. And this game's so big because whoever wins this game has the upper hand moving forward with 2 more games to go. I think we all know that. It's game 5, series tied at 2. Whoever takes a 3-2 lead has a decided advantage. For the Mariners, if they lose this when they're done, because they got to play 2 games at Toronto. But even for Toronto, they would have a chance going back home, but it would be tough for them to win back-to-back games. And Brash, like usual, making things interesting up there. Come on, man, just get the out. Don't get cute, just get the out. With Vladimir Guerrero on deck. Hey-oh! Sounds like a lot of fun. Oh, Brash. Full count now. That's great. And if Guerrero comes up, they're going to walk him. And then if he walks Luke's, you're going to end up with the bases loaded with 2 outs because they're not going to pitch to Guerrero. He's too dangerous right now. I wouldn't pitch to him. And Miller just watching from the dugout with, like usual, no expression. And Luke's has been walked. Oh, this is great. 2 outs, 2 on, score tied at 1. Brash is on the bump, and now Guerrero's coming to the plate. No way you pitch to this guy. Oh, yeah, yay. Yeah, yay. I don't know what you do. It's a problem. What would you do? Would you pitch to Guerrero Jr.? Or would you be like, no, thanks, I'm good? All right, I sent the soundbite to Brian No. They're pitching to him. Oh, yeah, yeah. I sent the soundbite to Bino of Caleb Williams saying, could care less. Is care less. You cannot be trusted. I would agree with that. Anytime you hear someone say, I could care less, you know right there, trusted. I would agree with that. Anytime you hear someone say, I could care less, you know right there, that's red flags. That's suspect. It's like, I'm not sure what you're talking about there. All right, 2 balls, no strikes. That's the count to Guerrero. 2 on, 2 out. Brash on the bump. They have got to get through this inning. You cannot give up anything else. And Guerrero's been on fire, of course. Here it is. In honor of Aaron Fentress of the Oregonian, here's We Are the World. Lionel Richie and Michael Jackson, the 2 men behind the magic here. And if you haven't seen the documentary, it's on Netflix, Greatest Night in Pop. It's awesome. Lionel, he heard you singing. He just wanted to come out and say hi. All right, 503-248-0620. We'll come back. I'll update you on the Mariners, and we'll talk some college football with Preston Highfield coming up at 520. All right, bottom of the fifth up at T-Mobile Park. Score tied up at 1. Nobody on for the Mariners, 1 out. With Rivas at the plate, counts at 3-0, and he just got walked. So Rivas is on his way to first, and that brings up Julio. So the Mariners hanging tough right now. Brian Wu is getting warmed up in the pen. They replaced Miller, brought in Brash, and now Brian Wu is getting warmed up. The line is with Wu, Rivas on first, Rodriguez at the plate, and they changed up the lineup to Wu, Rivas on first, Rodriguez at the plate, and they changed up the lineup tonight. So Cal is second. They moved Arozarena down, and hopefully that will pay off here with Julio. And also in college football right now, number 1, Miami's trailing Louisville right now by a score of 14-7 in a battle of two of the best defensive lines in college football. A couple of games I'm looking at this weekend that I like. Georgia Tech getting 3 points on the road at Duke. They're 6-0. I love Tech to win that game. I think South Carolina getting 4.5 at home to Oklahoma. I like the Gamecocks here to upset the Sooners. And one game that I really like, Arizona State, the line has continued to drop now that we've gotten word that Sam Leavitt listed as probable. He's expected to play after missing the Utah game. I saw some stat. The Sun Devils over the last 30 years are 34, 20, and 1 at home against the spread as a home dog. And they're a dog in this situation to Texas Tech, who is one of the hottest teams in the country at 6-0, and they've got the best defensive line. They got what they paid for, no question about it. Line out by Rodriguez, 2 outs, 1 on, and now Cal Raleigh's at the plate. This would be one heck of a time for Cal to smash another one over the wall. Cal, they could use you right now. You need to create some separation between you and the Blue Jays because they're threatening in every freaking inning, for crying out loud. So that's where we're at. We'll see if Cal can come through. This would be a big time. Bottom of the fifth up at T-Mobile Park. Pivotal Game 5, series tied up at 2. And you got to love playoff baseball. Every pitch, every situation, it all matters. And the majority of the crowd is standing and gripping all at the same time. And I got to get up for the Blue Jay fans, too, because they have done a good job of coming on down and packing the crib. So I like the Sun Devils plus the 7 at home against Texas Tech. I have no feel on that line with Oregon and Rutgers. The Ducks right now a 17.5-point favorite. I like Greg Schiano, head coach at Rutgers. Very good coach. They're a physical football team. And I would imagine, based on what we saw last week against Indiana, the Ducks better come ready to defend the run. And same thing against Iowa. Teams are going to try and run at them based on what Indiana was able to do, so the Ducks got to be ready. The USC-Notre Dame game, the Irish right now favored by 9.5. The question that I have on this game is really the same thing that went through my mind last week when USC hosted Michigan. I didn't know if the Trojans could be able to hold their own in the trenches because Michigan, they're a very physical football team, and they do a great job of running it. And they run between the tackles, and they push you off the ball. But USC held their own, and they won the game. It's going to be the same issue against Notre Dame because they're so good up front, and I don't know if USC can hold up. I like what Lincoln Riley is doing. I like the fact that he's running the football. He's got the balance back in his offense. They've been one of the best rushing teams so far this year. But it's going to be a tall order for them to hang up in the trenches. Another game I like, Utah, laying 3.5 on the road at BYU. I like Utah to win this game. The one thing about BYU I've noticed, they're unbeaten so far in the year. Good football team. They've got a young quarterback, a freshman in Bachmeier. The only issue I see with Bachmeier in watching him play, he's a runner by trade. That's his strength, is being able to run on different types of quarterback keepers. Very opportunistic for a young quarterback, but their passing game leaves a lot to be desired. And so I think against that Utah defense, he's just going to have issues. I would expect them to force a couple of turnovers and be able to control the game on the ground. That should be a very physical football game in the Holy War. But I've been very impressed with what I've seen from Utah. Their only loss coming to Texas Tech. I like what I see from BYU, but I think Utah's a better team. And they do a good job with their quarterback, Dampier. similar to Bachmeier. He's not a great drop back quarterback. He's not going to beat you with his arm in most situations, but they do a good job of these quarterback runs, designed runs where he's looking to lower his shoulders and get after you because Dampier's a big dude. And what Utah does is they bring in an extra offensive lineman and line him up as a tight end, and they use that formation for designed runs. So they've got an extra blocker on the field, and it's really hard with all that beef. And this might be the best offensive line that Kyle Whittingham's had. So that should be, if you like old school football and teams that are aggressive, that should be a good game for you. But I like Utah minus the 3.5. And I got nothing but respect for Kyle Whittingham. Even Kenny Dillingham after that game last week talked about how they used Whittingham and what he's done at Utah is kind of a good model for how they want to construct their program. Physical, tough, run the football. So there you have it. It should be, and we got some good games on tap. So I'd say of the top 25 action, kind of your viewing guide that you're looking at, I think what you want to keep an eye on Saturday morning, Georgia Tech at Duke is an underrated, very good game. 9 o'clock on ESPN. 9:45 on the SEC Network. Number 14, Oklahoma is at South Carolina. That should be a very tight and highly contested game. After that, you fast forward to 12:30. Great matchup in the SEC. Number 5, Ole Miss, taking on number 9, Georgia. Ole Miss struggled last week against Washington State, probably because they were looking ahead to this game. Ole Miss has been one of the more impressive teams to me throughout the season thus far, with Trinidad Chambliss, with their offensive play design, and they've been very physical running the football and with their defensive line. How are they going to match up with Georgia? And then at 1 o'clock, Texas Tech at Arizona State. That one's going to be on Fox. You've got the Oregon game on the Big Ten Network at 3:30. And then you fast forward, you've got the two good games at 4:30. Tennessee, Bama from Tuscaloosa, and USC, Notre Dame, which will be on NBC. And your nightcapper, Utah and BYU, which is 5 o'clock on Fox. So you've got solid games at every key time point at 9, 12:30, 1, 3:30, and 5 o'clock. And there you have it. Get your food together. And again, for you guys out there that are married, make sure that you plan accordingly for the key games that you have to see. So whatever you need to get done around the house, make sure you get it done so that you've created the time for yourself to be able to watch ball. You got to plan. You got to plan ahead. You got to be creative with your time, all right? Don't jack around and then get caught not watching any games because you're stuck doing stuff all day. Be smart with how you operate. All right, Brian Wu is now in the game as we head to the top of the 6th at T-Mobile Park, and the Mariners and Blue Jays all tied at 1. How is Brian Wu going to do? First pitch is a double to the wall. Not a good scenario. Not a good scenario. And the Mariners are going to make his grip all the way through. All right, Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday. Your chance to go to the opener against Minnesota is coming up next. And then we'll talk college ball with Preston at 5:20. All right, Brian Wu has given up a run. All right, Brian Wu has given up a run. The Blue Jays have a 2-1 lead, top of the sixth up at T-Mobile Park. There are 2 outs and a runner on third, so it's critical that Brian Wu get out with only giving up the single run. Very important. Gave up a double and a single, and the Blue Jays have taken the lead, their first of the day at 2-1. So this is a critical juncture of the ballgame here. And he gets the ground out to end the inning, and it's 2-1 heading to the bottom of the sixth. Blue Jays are on top. So it's time for the Mariner offense to step up because the pitching has been okay today. It's been okay, but they need the offense to step up. They just have the solo homer from Suarez. They're going to need somebody else to step up and get the job done. The good thing is they're in the heart of their batting order right now. So we'll see how things continue to show with my buddy Preston Highfield. I think he's down in Austin right now. He's going to join us. But we have a pair of tickets. And, of course, you can head over to trailblazers.com for all of your ticket needs. Don't forget, every Tuesday throughout the entire season, we're going to have Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday. We give away tickets to every home game. So your place to come to for tickets is right here on the Rip City Drive. Listen to me for your chance to win. So we're going to do it right now, and we're going to do number 16. Caller 16 will get a pair of tickets for the season opener, Trailblazers Timberwolves from Moda Center on Wednesday the 22nd, tip-off at 7. 503-248-0620. 503-248-0620. Call now. Caller 15 gets a pair of Trailblazer tickets for their season opener, Real Basketball. 503-248-0620. Fire away. 503-248-0620. I want to hear from a Blazer fan. 503-248-0620. Caller 15, pair of tickets, Trailblazers and Timberwolves. And there you have it. The phones are lit up. So good luck to you. And every Tuesday throughout the entire basketball season, we'll have Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday here where you have a chance to go to Trailblazer games. Now, the game last night, they finished up their preseason, thankfully. Not a big fan of preseason, any type of sport. But they finished up their preseason in Utah. A couple of things that jumped out at me. One, Drew Holiday looks very good in a Trailblazer uniform, and he's been comfortable throughout the preseason, even more comfortable than I expected for a vet like him. So in tune with both sides of the floor. He knows how to play his role, and he does it well. But he was shooting the basketball extremely well last night. 6 threes. He had 24 points, 7 rebounds, 7 assists. Just a great all-around game. And we've seen throughout the preseason his ability to defend multiple positions in a single possession. He can guard multiple spots on the floor. He knows how to position himself. He's just one of those guys that knows where he needs to be. He's going to be in the right place at the right time, Johnny on the spot. But I have a lot of confidence in him. I know Chauncey Billups is a big believer in Drew Holiday, and he's moving well. He looks good. So I was excited to see that. A nice little final tune-up for Drew before the regular season. Shaedon Sharpe finished up his impressive preseason with 20 points, 3 rebounds, and 3 assists. He played pretty well. Most importantly, he had a strong preseason where, for the most part, he was engaged on both ends. And with Shaedon Sharpe, that's going to be the key. One, continuing to round into a more consistent three-point shooter. That's important. But also for him just to remain engaged defensively at all times because that's what Coach Billups is going to demand. That's what he expects, and that's what they're going to need from him. He's got to be that guy. But he had a great preseason. And I'm not sure exactly what type of starting lineup we're going to see, but I know we're going to see a lot of Shaedon Sharpe. He's got the highest ceiling of the young guys. He's got a chance and the ability to do something and do things that other guys on the team can't. He's got to continue to ascend. The other guy that's really jumped out at me has been Donovan Clingan, going into his second year at center. He's leaned down. He looks great. He's moving well, rebounding like a freak. And he's a guy that is playing with confidence. Their coaches believe in him. He's going to be a good rim protector. And I'm hoping that He'll just be able to move better in space away from the basket now that he's gotten himself in better shape. And you usually see that with guys who come into the NBA. The first year or two, they're not accustomed to, how to take care of their body. But once you get to the NBA and you get around pros, a lot of these guys learn and they take their fitness, their nutrition, and everything else to the next level. That's what we're seeing with Donovan Klinger right now. Also a guy who is tenacious, wants to win, and is willing to do whatever it takes for his team to win, whatever the coaches ask. And you need those type of guys on your squad. Counts 2-2, Polanco at the plate, nobody out. And they're in the bottom of the sixth in Seattle. Toronto's on top 2-1. Polanco now with a full count. So the Mariners offense, which has been dormant the last couple of games, is going to have to step up and do something here. Because the pitching's been pretty good. The defense has been nice. But they need the offense to step up. They need the bats to come to life. Only run across the plate today was a Suarez solo shot. And Polanco's just grounded out to second. So 1 out, nobody on, bottom of the sixth up at T-Mobile Park. So we'll keep an eye on that. But for the Blazers, I was thinking about win total. I have them at 45 wins this year. I think 45 is a good number. What I expect is they're going to be a top 5, top 10 defense to begin the year. Last year, they were excellent defensively in the final 41 games. I think they're going to be a really good defensive team in the first half of this year. And I think the defense will carry them early while they continue to learn and understand this new offense that they're running, courtesy of assistant coach Tiago Splitter. So that's what I'm expecting. The offense will catch up to the defense, but the defense is going to lead them. And the key players, of course, like usual, it's going to be Tamani Kamara, Denny Avdia. That will power everything along with Drew Holiday. But those three guys alone in the lineup together, just think about what they're going to be able to do defensively. And then behind them, you've got the rim protection of Donovan Klinger. They've got a chance to be really special defensively. And that's something that Coach Billups expects. And so I think the defense will carry them. So I think 45 wins is a good number, and that's my expectation for this group this upcoming season. All right, Naylor's just grounded out. 2 outs, nobody on. Bottom of the sixth up at T-Mobile Park. And the Blue Jays on top 2-1. Pivotal Game 5 with the series tied up at 2. I can't believe after the Mariners winning the first 2 games in Toronto that they're on the verge of potentially dropping 3 consecutive home games. Like, that's wild to me. But that's so baseball, right? That's the way it goes. Unbelievable. Last night was awesome in Thursday Night Football because we saw 2 old guys gunslinging it together with Joe Flacco and Aaron Rodgers. And I thought it was terrific. And Joe Flacco was having fun.
Shotgun snap to Flacco. Looking, throwing, caught,
Nice.
middle of the end zone.
Nice.
Noah Fant, the Bengals tight end, with the touchdown catch. And Cincinnati's lead can be back to 10 with the extra point.
And they get the win 33-31. And afterwards, Flacco talked about how much fun he was having out there.
It was a lot of fun, but there's your mind's not necessarily thinking that way for the full 60 minutes. Obviously, the last 7 seconds, but even that, there's 3 seconds. They got a Hail Mary off. You're still, I've been through enough of these to wait until that clock hits 0 to be excited. So I love doing this. I've been doing it for such a long time. When you're out there with the guys and you're doing what you want to do and you're having success and you can look in each other's eyes and just you get that feeling, of bonding with somebody else and just it's a lot of fun. And it's a lot more fun when that clock hits 0 and you've gotten the job done.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. He played extremely well. Bengals get the win. And how dumb are the Browns? They basically used Flacco for a few games, and then they traded him to Cincinnati. And he's turned out to be exactly what they needed, a veteran presence who can come in and get the ball to Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. He's a good leader. I mean, obviously, he's not the same player he used to be, but he's one that's very competent out there, and the guys believe in him, and they'll rally. All right, we had a walk. The Mariners have 1 on with 2 outs in the bottom of the sixth, and the Blue Jays are making a pitching change, so Gausman comes out, giving up 1 run on 3 hits. And the Mariners needing to get the offense going to get back in this game, down 2-1. Aaron Rodgers talked about losing a close game. He had a terrific game and had a couple of sweet touchdown passes to Freiermuth. One that was like a 40-yard rope between defenders, showcasing that arm talent.
Well, I think you got to realize, listen, we want to win every game. There needs to be an expectation of winning, but this is a short week, division opponent, anything can happen. Obviously, Joe played really well for them, and Chase and T got going for him. But this is the NFL. You know, we had a chance to really open up some space, but we're 4-2, still first in the division. Got a couple, home games coming up, back-to-back, another Sunday night opportunity against my former team. So I'm not going to ride the roller coaster, and I know Mike isn't, and hopefully you guys follow suit.
There you go. Aaron Rodgers also talked about how it was good for the old guys and what they were calling the icy hot ball.
The novelty? Yeah, I think it's great for all the old guys, you know. I know that when I watch other sports, maybe it's because I'm the older guy, but I tend to pull for the older guys to win championships.
I like that. Pulls for the older guys to win championships. He also talked about those 2 touchdowns of Freiermuth and how he recognized a couple things in the still photos on the sideline.
Be ready, because I saw something on one of the pictures on the sideline in the first half. So at halftime, I pulled them aside. And
when I was growing up,
DK and Pat did a nice job down the middle.
You know, back in the old day when I was growing up, they would have.
And Pat did a nice job down the middle.
You know, back in the old day when I was growing up, they would have someone would deliver a binder of pictures from the game, still photos, you know, that the quarterbacks, Marino, Elway, whoever, would flip through on the sideline as they were in the middle of the game. But, you know, now everyone's got the tablets. They're actually watching videos, seeing pictures, everything else right there on those little Surface tabs. It's pretty awesome. But that was fun. That was one of those rare, delicious Thursday night games. We don't get those too often. You know, usually because of the short week, the lack of preparation time, it ends up in clunky football, but that was a good one. All right, the Jays have brought in Varland Suarez, who has produced the only run for the M-Stays at the plate with a runner on first and the count at 1-0. It would be great if Gino could come up with another big hit here with the Mariners trailing 2-1, bottom of the 6th up at T-Mobile Park. All right, 503-248-0620. When we come back, we'll talk more college football. Be joined by Preston Highfield right here on the Rip City Drive on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, top of the 7th at T-Mobile Park. Brian Wu still on the bump. 1 out, nobody on for the Blue Jays. The Mariners left a couple of guys stranded in the bottom half of the 6th, and the Blue Jays are on top 2-1 in the pivotal Game 5 of the ALCS. And now the very dangerous George Springer, who had an RBI double in the 5th, is now at the plate. All right, we head out to the phones now. We're joined by my good friend Preston Highfield to talk some college football. And Preston, thanks for coming back on the show, brother. The game last week with Oregon and Indiana, what surprised me the most was how Indiana controlled the game physically on both sides at the line of scrimmage. I did not expect that. What was the biggest surprise to you coming out of that game?
Yeah, hey, Chad and Shacker, everyone. Thanks so much for having me back on. You guys are the best. Yeah, I mean, I would agree. I would agree that Oregon's inability to control the line of scrimmage, especially in passing situations, it seemed like Dante Moore was flushed out, and he took a really nasty hit to the lower leg in the start of the third quarter, and I thought that really hampered his mobility. I mean, he really couldn't run at all after that. But, yeah, I mean, you got to give credit to IU for looking like the more physical team, especially up front. I thought Oregon was actually having success between the tackles running the ball with Whittington and Davison at times. I wish they would have stuck with that a little bit more. But they just had no juice on offense, man. I mean, and Indiana really, really, really wanted that game, and they deserved to win because they were the better team. I just thought Indiana had more juice. That game meant more to them. And, yeah, I mean, are they the better team on a neutral field when everything's on the line? I think it would be a coin flip, like if they played tomorrow on a neutral field. But got to give them credit, man. They showed up, and they brought more juice to Austin than Oregon did.
Yeah, that was definitely surprising. But the good thing is in college football now, because we finally have a legitimate playoff, is you don't have to be perfect to get into the dance and have a chance at a national championship. I guess the way I look at that game moving forward for the Ducks, it's like, hey, a better team came in and beat us in our crib, but now we can get back to work and focus on the details that we need to get to where we want to be, and you move forward with the games on your schedule. So I really don't think anything changes for Oregon. The only thing that might be altered a bit is access to the Big Ten title game because of the tie breaks. Mm-hmm. But aside from that, it's like I think Oregon, they're still the same team they were before the Indiana game. They just ran into a buzzsaw. I mean, that's the way I look at it. I'm not freaked out at all.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. I mean, obviously, Ohio State loses the final game of the regular season at home last year to a walk-on QB, a Michigan team that had its two best players, Will Johnson and Colson Loveland, out of that game.
Awful
and they
loss.
go on to win the Natty. That was insane. I don't know if we'll see a loss like that again, to be honest. It was that crazy. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of merit to not playing in your conference championship game. Like that, all four conference champions lost in the first round last year. Some of them, obviously Oregon included, were completely blown out in their first game. I should say first game. It was technically a quarterfinal, but there's a ton of merit to that. Like, and at this point, by the way, I don't know if you've looked at Indiana's schedule. They don't play Ohio State I have it right in front of me right now. Michigan State, UCLA, Maryland, Penn State, Wisconsin, and Purdue. I mean, barring something insane, they're probably going to go undefeated. And college football is wildly unpredictable, and we love it. So, sure, they could lose at Penn State or something, for example, if Penn State turns it around with an interim coach. But I think Indiana is almost kind of a lock to make the Big Ten title game now. And Ohio State certainly looks like a buzzsaw again. So I think, honestly, it could be good for Oregon in the long run to take it to the chin, find the learning lessons in the game, obviously needing to protect better and probably not go away from the run. And by the way, utilize Kenyon Sadiq more. He had 2 catches for 21 yards. Like, what are we doing? And Will Stein, he's widely respected. He's a very, very good OC. He'll probably get some head offers the offseason. He probably got some head offers last season. But you got to use Sadiq more. He's a crazy weapon for this team that hasn't been utilized as well this year. So I'd like to see them use him more. And yeah, I mean, watching the Dan Lanning presser this week, like he was snapping at reporters for asking about the Indiana game. Like he's roaring to go. I mean, Oregon might be Rutgers by 40. He is really roaring to go. So we'll see how they respond.
Yeah, it's important for them to bounce back and get things right. I'm looking at Indiana's schedule. You're right. Anything could happen, but Michigan State, UCLA, both at home, at Maryland, at Penn State, Wisconsin, at home, and then at Purdue. more than likely they're going to go unbeaten and make it to the Big Ten title game. I think that's safe to say.
Yeah. And Kurt Signetti, you just got to give him his flowers. And I was saying this on my little video podcast that I do independently is like, I don't know why he would leave Indiana for Penn State. Indiana's clearly paying up. They just extended him again. They extended their OC Mike Shanahan. They extended their DC. Clearly they probably paid a decent penny for Fernando Mendoza to come in. He's kind of got everything he needs there. And why would you want Penn State job? There's just obviously money aside, but he just signed a $93 million contract, so that's no longer a big factor. The Penn State job is a ton of pressure. It's like you better beat Ohio State, otherwise we're mad at you. You better basically win the Natty, otherwise we're mad at you. And Indiana, it's like you make the playoff, they are going to build him a statue if they make the playoff and make a run. So I think he stays there. He's really got it going on, man. He's the toast of college football right now.
Well, here's why you consider making the move to Penn State, and this is the big question I have with Signetti staying at Indiana. What he's done the first couple of years there is truly remarkable and worthy of all the attention and respect that he's getting. But here's my question, Preston. The type of success he's had over year one and year two, can that be sustained at a traditional basketball school? That's the question I have.
Yeah, that's a fair point. And based on funding, it would appear yes, as long as they keep getting good quarterbacks. And honestly, Curtis Rourke last year was good, but not anything crazy. He was a MAC transfer from Ohio. Dude, he's winning games. His best players were JMU guys. Aiden Fisher and Elijah Surratt are JMU guys with him. So,
which tells you that he's finding guys and he's coaching them up, to be the players that he wants. That shows the genius of Signetti.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think they need to be getting these 5-star guys for them to keep having the success. I think he's just that good of a coach and that good of a recruiter and a developer, and clearly the rest of the staff is too. But, I hear you on the fact that Penn State, if you look at the natural breeding ground of Pennsylvania from a recruiting standpoint, you kind of fall backwards into about 15 4-stars a year, in your back pocket. So, yes, it's easier to have a more talented team at Penn State for sure. But, Indiana's not – it's not Nebraska. It's not South Dakota. It's not Montana. You still got Chicago nearby. Obviously Notre Dame is of course, a storied program, plenty of Dusty Heismans in that trophy case. But, they have a recruiting ground nearby. So I hear you on that. I just think he could have a 7-5 season because that happens to just about everyone not named Nick Saban, and especially at a non-perennial power program. But I still think they'll love him just fine, even if he has the occasional 7-5 season, if he's taken them to the playoffs 2 years in a row.
The other part that's amazing is their offensive coordinator there. You mentioned him, Mike Shanahan. Absolutely no relation to Mike Shanahan of the Broncos, who won back-to-back Super Bowls, or his son Kyle Shanahan, who's currently coaching the 49ers. That's wild to me.
Yeah, I was looking up because they were talking about the report that USC went after him and a couple other teams went after him. And I looked up his bio and I was like, yep, receiver at Pitt, coached at Elon. This guy is just coached at Indiana University of Pennsylvania, where Signetti's dad is a legend. He really just kind of been with Coach Sig the whole time. No relation to the offensive geniuses of the NFL.
Well, smart for Indiana to make the move now, because can you imagine the bundle of cash that Penn State would have put on a plane to send to Bloomington to try and lure him away with ties to Pennsylvania? The money would have been absurd.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The money, obviously they're paying probably roughly $50 million for Franklin, another 10 or so or more for the rest of the staff. If they fire all those guys, they seem to, I don't know who their big booster is, but they clearly have enough money to throw $60 million down the toilet. So yeah, they have a lot of money. I wonder about Matt Rule. Obviously, everyone knows he played at Penn State. He grew up in State College. Apparently, his best friend is Pat Kraft. I watched his press conference this week, and it's truly his best friend, outside of football, which is kind of odd.
Yeah,
he's the AD at Penn State, but he was obviously answering the questions the right way. I imagine if he gets that offer, he's gone after this season.
Yeah, that's possible. And if I'm Penn State, when you have those type of resources, I go big. I don't stop anywhere. I ask everyone. I would go to Nick Saban. I would see if he's interested and offer him a boatload of cash. I would go to Marcus Freeman at Notre Dame. Like, I'm going to throw my money around to try and land the best possible coach. Why not? If you got the money to do it, try and lure him away. Everyone's got a price.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, I don't know. It's Pat Fitzgerald's a name that's come up as well. I thought he got a raw deal at Northwestern. It turns out in a court of law, it was proven that he got a raw deal for those hazing allegations at Northwestern. He was proven clean, basically. So, yeah, I mean, I would look at him. He's a tough football guy. I mean, really, dude, what Penn State also needs to do is make it easier on the quarterback and get a better quarterback. They haven't had a good quarterback since Trace McSorley, and I mean, you can probably count on one hand how many great quarterbacks they've had over the years. Like, this Ethan Grunkmeyer guy who's about to take over, true sophomore. He was a top 70 recruit, so he's got kind of the star power behind him. So I'm actually pretty fascinated to see like if he's got the goods or not for the rest of the season. But they got a quarterback in there too.
All right, Preston. You know what's great about the college football year? Unlike any other year, like I look around the country, there are some really good teams. Indiana being one, Oregon, dominant force. Like I think it is wide open.
10 at halftime right now to Louisville at home. I was watching. It was funny. Louisville got up 14-0. They were using 3 different quarterbacks in the game, including Miller Moss, the USC transfer. But yeah, I'm with you. I don't see an obvious number one team. I think it's becoming more and more like the NFL, where coaches, they would never say this out loud, but I don't think they mind losing a game, maybe even 2. Like I was looking at Oregon's schedule. Like if they lost 2 games, do they still get in? Because remember last year, Ohio State, I looked it up. Ohio State was the 6th seed with 2 losses. Alabama was left out with 3 losses. They had a really ugly loss at the end of the season, though, to Oklahoma. I think if Oregon loses a second time to, say, USC or at UW, I think they still get in. Obviously, you probably don't set out to lose a second time, but with the nature of the sport being you got to play 4 great games in December and January to win the whole thing if that's your goal. I think these coaches don't mind kind of, I don't want to say slow playing the season, but you know what I mean? Just developing and getting the kids humbled and obviously ultimately hopefully playing your best in December and January.
We're talking to Preston Highfield, taking a look around the country with college football. And he's right. Louisville on top of Miami right now by a score of 14-10. But this is what's crazy about the NIL and the way it works now. Like, look at Texas Tech this year. They spent almost as much money as anybody in the country. They now got the number 1 rated defensive line, and they're in a position now where they're unbeaten. They're getting ready to take on Arizona State tomorrow. But it goes to show you that sometimes in life you do get what you pay for, man. And they've got big money pouring into the program, and they're getting people to buy in, and they're getting results from it.
Dude, yeah, exactly. They're starting QB. Bear Morton's not going to play tomorrow, so it's going to be Will Hammond, redshirt freshman from Austin, actually, who's going to play at Arizona State. Looks like Levitt's going to try to go. But, yeah, the Texas Tech team, watching them, man, I have never seen Texas Tech play decent defense in my life, let alone elite defense. This is like breaking my brain watching them play elite defense. You watch the Utah game, you watch the Houston game, like – Utah and Houston couldn't get the ball past midfield, and like Texas Tech is just flying around. I mean, they used to give up 40 points a game in the old Big 12, and it was like you didn't even blink twice. I mean, you thought that was normal. So yeah, I really love their middle linebacker Jacob Rodriguez. He actually is. I mean, I'm sure they paid him because he led the Big 12 in tackles last year, so they probably gave him a good kind of raise or whatever, another pile on another couple dollars on top of the pile, but. He is like a homegrown Texas Tech guy, but yes, they went out and got, the edge from Stanford, the edge from Georgia Tech. So they've definitely loaded up with, everyone knows by now their billionaire booster who sold that oil company. So yeah, it's weird watching Texas Tech look elite on defense, man, but they look for real. Like they could make some real noise in the college football playoff.
Yeah, it's amazing. You get people that want to step up and start investing in your program, good things can happen. Well, Preston, I appreciate you taking time to join me and talk some ball, my friend.
Yeah, Chad, so awesome, man. Yeah, keep up the great work. Looking forward to watching the Chargers and the Colts on Sunday. My Chargers.
I love the Chargers.
The Dolphins.
Love the Chargers at home on Sunday. Love them.
Yeah, they're favored. I don't get that. The Colts got Jonathan Taylor and the best offense in the league, and half the Chargers team is hurt. I'm trying to figure that out. Do you like them?
I do. I like the Chargers to win that one. And, respect to the Colts. They're balling out, but I like the Chargers in this spot. And they were fortunate to get that win last week, but that's what's great about the NFL. We don't worry about game control. We don't worry about style points. Get the win and move on. That's all that matters in the NFL.
Yeah, that's very fair.
Like
Cameron
the first thing you
Dicker,
brought up,
I mean,
think about college football. The first thing you brought up with Miami, who's unbeaten on the year, they're trailing at halftime by 4 points, and you brought it up like it's a problem. But in the NFL, it's like, dude, the Chargers won that game against Miami. They were fortunate, but they got the win.
Yeah.
No one cares how it looked. You just get the win. That's what I like about the NFL.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, man. A lot of the best teams are 4-2 or even 3. I mean, the Chiefs 3-3, Eagles dropped to 4-2, Bills dropped to 4-2. So definitely just a win baby vibe. And yeah, pumped, man. I think the Colts are for real. I mean, they're getting a lot of praise, but it'd be a big win for the Chargers. I think they get Khalil Mack back this weekend, so that would obviously help a lot. Their defense is banged up, but I'm pumped for it, man. We'll see if Danny Dimes can duel Justin Herbert. I think the Chargers being favored is a big respect to Herbert because the Colts look amazing, but and the fact that it's in LA, but should be a great game.
No, it's great. All right, brother. We'll catch up soon.
Cool. All right, Chad. Thanks, guys.
There you go. Preston Highfield talking some ball. Right now, up at T-Mobile Park, we're still witnessing the Mariners and Blue Jays. Jays on top 2-1, 2 outs, bottom of the 7th. And right now, Julio is at the plate. Nobody on. Canzone almost had a home run, but it just left of the foul pole down the left field line. It was close. Man, it was close. They reviewed it. It was out, and he ended up getting out. So the Mariners now looking for some type of big swing from Julio. And he's quickly in an 0-2 hole, which is par for the course for Julio right now. Swinging wild at the plate. It's crazy. All right. Big thanks to Preston Highfield, Sean Hyken, and Aaron Finchers for joining the show. Shacker, did we locate a winner for the tickets?
Yeah, we got a winner, Chris from Gresham.
All right, Chris, nice work. Chris from Gresham is going to be at the season opener on Wednesday, Trailblazers and Timberwolves. Very nice work, Chris. Way to be snappy with it. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. Mariner fans are gripping right now, as they should be. Julio swinging wildly at the plate. Counts at 1-2, and he just got another foul ball. So we'll see how things shake out. They just need to get a freaking run across the plate, for crying out loud. Is that too much to ask? You just need a run. All right, we'll keep things rolling. Rip City Drive on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, 2 out, nobody on. Top of the 8th in Seattle. Blue Jays remain on top by a score of 2-1. And the Mariners hoping to get a run across the plate. It's just amazing to me how crappy their offense has been in the 3 home games. Unbelievable. And the pitching and defense has been there today, but they can't find anyone to step up and get the job done at the plate. Cal Raleigh will be first up as they head to the bottom of the 8th. So 6 outs for the Mariners to try and figure out a way to get a runner across the plate, or maybe 2 runs across the plate. But Game 5, obviously pivotal, I think we all know, because if the Mariners lose this one, they're done. Hard to imagine this team, after 3 consecutive home losses, would be able to find a way to scratch out 2 on the road at Toronto. No, I don't think that's going to happen. But you win this game, it's a totally different story. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. Taking a look at the NFL slate this weekend, we have another early 6:30 kickoff in London at Wembley Stadium. Rams at the Jaguars. I lean Jaguars plus 3.5 in this game. This is a trip they're accustomed to, and I like the way their defense is playing this year. Very opportunistic, no question about it. Saints at the Bears. I lean Saints plus the 4.5, but the Bears should be able to win this game. Dolphins at the Browns. I lean Cleveland minus the 2.5, with the Browns being at home with their defense. And I just don't think Miami's a team that would travel well, on the grass against that defense and that pass rush. The Browns are not a good football team, but their defense is legit. And Dylan Gabriel is doing a decent job of not, turning it over. Patriots at the Titans. New England laying 6.5. I lean Titans plus the points in this one. Had the coaching switch over. Mike McCoy is going to take over. The key for the Titans will be simply don't turn it over and put your defense on a short field. I like the Raiders plus 11.5 at Kansas City. Chiefs should win, but I think it's going to be a close one. I like the Vikings plus 2.5 at home against the Eagles. Philadelphia is really banged up right now on both sides of the football, especially on defense. And if Carson Wentz goes for the Vikings, I think he'll be able to have some opportunities to make plays. Panthers at the Jets, just a horrendously bad football game. Giants at the Broncos. I like Denver minus the 7.5. I really like the young players, Jackson Dart and Cam Scatteraboo. But I think Jackson Dart's going to make some mistakes against that Bronco pass rush, which had 9 sacks last week and is by far the sack leader in the NFL. And it's going to be a different ball game on the road for Jackson Dart against a team that comes at you in many different directions with Vance Joseph, their defensive coordinator. The team I like the most, I love the Chargers at home against the Colts, minus 1.5. I like this spot for LA. I think they get the win. I like the Commanders plus 1.5 at Dallas. Hard to imagine the Cowboys' defense being able to do enough to keep the Commanders from being able to score at will. I like the Packers laying the 7.5 at Arizona. And the Falcons and 49ers, hard to know based on how banged up both teams are. I lean San Francisco. The other game I love, Lions minus 5.5 against the Bucs on Monday Night Football. In the Dome, I think Detroit will get things rolling with their offense, and they're going to be tough. And Texans and Seahawks, I lean Seattle. I think that's going to be another very tight football game with 2 very good defenses. Very impressed with the win last week of the Seahawks going on the road and beating Jacksonville, who was coming off the win over Kansas City. I thought their defense got back on track after that rough outing against the Bucs when they were beat up a little bit. And the connection that we're seeing right now between Sam Darnold and Jackson Smith and Jigba is awesome. Sam Darnold's playing with confidence. Sam Darnold is playing with, a lot of passion. And Cal Raleigh has just hit a home run. He did it. Woo! Cal Raleigh leads off the bottom of the 8th with a solo shot, and we're all tied at 2 up in Seattle. It hung up in the air for a while, so we weren't sure, and he kind of watched it, but he got it done. Wow. Cal Raleigh, the big dumper. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. And just like that, the Mariners are back to life, and the park has come to life. That was awesome. Cal effing Raleigh if you need him. Freaking great. Game knotted at 2, bottom of the 8th with nobody out. I mean, that's what MVPs do. His team was lifeless at the plate, and they needed something like that, and he came in and got it done. That is freaking awesome. The big dumper. Wow. That thing was way up in the air. It just kept drifting and drifting, and over the wall it went. Good job, Cal. Freaking stud. Balls of steel, Cal Raleigh. That was money. And there's the pitch. Boy, he crushed it. He got under it just a little bit. So he didn't hit it quite center, but that thing went way up in the air. Woo! And just over the fence. Oh, my gosh, just over. Just over. Now people are mounting each other in the stands. Wow. Love it. Absolutely love it. And now Polanco. Polanco time. So now the Mariners all of a sudden feel life back in their veins. They've evened the game up at 2. And they know now that they're in a position to win this game and make it a 3-2 series going back to Toronto. That's huge. And now Polanco's got a 2-0 count. That is awesome. They got little on the bump right now, and Toronto is gripping. This is great. Unbelievable. That's what MVPs do. I would give him the MVP. I know that Judge has got the numbers across the board. Oh, there's Polanco. Oh, just a little bit foul. But Raleigh's been that guy all year. I just don't think you can look at a player in baseball and say you can find someone that's more important to their team than what Cal Raleigh has been this year for Seattle. And the fact, a catcher hitting 60 bombs is absurd. But that was big time. That was big time. That's what you needed. And I do trust Polanco at the plate. He's been huge in the postseason. Huge. Huge. That pitch was a little bit low, but they call it a strike. 2-2 count on Polanco. Nobody out bottom of the 8th in Seattle. And we're all tied at 2 off the home run from Cal Raleigh. But that's been the problem with the Seattle offense. It feels like the guys are at the plate just looking for the home run swing every time they step up. It's like, dude, you don't have to always do it by home run. You can be patient. Full count on Polanco. It would be great to get him on. It would be great if they could get another run across the plate to be able to have a chance to close us out in the top of the 9th. Because Little right now is gripping. He is struggling after giving up that bomb to Cal Raleigh. I love the tension, man. It's so good. Oh, there's ball 4. And Polanco's taking the base. We got a runner on, nobody out, bottom of the 8th. The score tied at 2. Unfortunately, Arozarena come to the plate, and he's done absolutely squat. Squat. Wow. Yeah, Raleigh skied that one. Skied it, and it still got over the fence. Barely. Jeez. Playoff baseball. You got to love it. All right, so next week, don't forget, we've got the full week covered for you on the Trailblazer front, starting with a Courtside Monday with Burkhart. The season opener is going to come up on Wednesday as they get ready to take on the Minnesota Timberwolves. And we'll have everything covered for you with Trailblazer Insider with Sean Hyken. You'll hear the Section 113 podcast with me and Trav. We got Blazer Wrap-Up with Brendan Slaughter. Courtside Monday with Chris Burkhart. So we've got Trailblazer programming lined up for you throughout the entire season. And every Tuesday, including next Tuesday, it's Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday. Your chance to win tickets is right here. All right, enjoy the rest of this baseball game, my friends. Have a fabulous weekend. If you want to see me, I'll be down at Spirit Mountain between the hours of 5 and 8:30 on Saturday and Sunday for the 30th anniversary drawings. So it's going to be good. All right, Naylor's at the plate right now. And the count is at 2-1 with nobody out. And he's got Polanco on first. This is the time where Seattle can get it done. Have a good night.